A pair of YouTubers recently spent 1 week at the Conjuring House and documented the whole thing. Sam Goldback and Colby Brock were so astounded by what they saw at the house that they offered a very public challenge to anyone who could explain it.
Tried every single way that we could in our minds to debunk it and absolutely couldn't. So if you guys have any other ideas, let us know.
Sure thing, guys. Happy to help. Let's dive right in and discuss Sam and Colby's Conjuring House series. About a month ago, YouTubers Sam and Colby posted a 4-part series on their week-long visit to the Conjuring House. I wasn't familiar with them at the time, but I got a lot of comments asking me to look into it, and what can I say? I'm a man of the people. Now, at first I wasn't interested, because if you've seen my Ghost React videos, you know that I have a hard and fast rule when it comes to ghost videos. If it's posted by a YouTuber, it's fake. I don't know if you can tell by looking at me, but I'm kind of a hater.
What appears to be a pack of plastic spoons is launched off the kitchen counter.
So what was the pack of plastic spoons doing sitting that close to the edge?
Listen, I've been on this platform a long time. Long enough to blanketly distrust any YouTube influencer out there. I just know better at this point. But despite all these reservations, I decided to give Sam and Colby a shot. And I'm glad I did, because something happens in this series that's genuinely worth talking about. The first video starts off about how I expected.
Something about the basement is following us.
What is this house?
YouTubers. Sam and Colby just hit 10 million subscribers, a fact that quickly proves to be inescapable.
10 million subscribers! 10 million subscribers! Come on!
10 million? It's unreal. 10 million subscribers!
Congrats, guys. Anyway, to celebrate, they're spending a week at the real Conjuring House. Now, if you're not familiar with the Conjuring House, it's the house from the Conjuring movies. Glad I could help clear that up. What's that? You need more detail? Oh, okay, fine then. Well, with the Conjuring House, once again, we're faced with Ed and Lorraine Warren lore, who are the most notorious, quote, demonologists in history. I won't be doing a deep dive on the Warrens, but let's just say I'm skeptical of any paranormal story that involves them. The one thing I will mention about the Warrens is that one of their most famous encounters was with the supposedly possessed doll Annabelle. This Annabelle doll that you may have seen in the Conjuring movies. In reality though, Annabelle was just a regular old Raggedy Ann doll that the Warrens kept locked up in a glass case, which I think is creepier than the over-the-top movie version. It's important to note that the Annabelle doll has nothing to do with the Conjuring House. The only thing that they have in common is that the Warrens were involved with both of them. Remember that. The story of the Conjuring House is that after the Perron family moved into the house in the early 1970s, they experienced a flurry of paranormal activity, which culminated in a visit from Ed and Lorraine Warren, who said that it was cursed by a witch centuries earlier. Honestly, the finer details of the Conjuring House aren't even that important, because the main point of discussion in Sam and Colby's videos isn't even related to the Conjuring House. In fact, considering the series is branded as a Conjuring House series, it is going to shock you how little we actually talk about the Conjuring House. But I digress. Sam and Colby spend a bit of time reverently explaining the lore of the house to get us into the mood before asking the big question on everyone's mind about the spirits who dwell there.
What do they want with us?
Exactly. What do the ghosts have planned for Sam and Colby's 10 million sub milestone? Am I right? It's called a diamond play button, people. Even the dead gotta respect that hustle. Sam and Colby have actually made a previous video here at the Conjuring House, so they spend some time going down memory lane.
Why are we doing this?
Because we hit 10 million subscribers, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we get to the main event of their first video, and arguably the 4-part series overall, Cody and Satori. We first meet Cody and Satori outside the Conjuring House when Sam and Colby first arrive, and the new owner of the house introduces them. They set things up by telling Sam and Colby that one of the ghosts there wants to talk to them. A ghost named Abigail. Right away, Cody mentions that he and Satori have a cool trick they can do to speak with ghosts.
We figured out this method that we could do when we first met each other. Everyone in the room can hear what's going on.
Okay.
We're not mediums per se, like we can't sense anything, but just something strange happens.
And on the first night, Cody and Satori officially showcased their trick, not just to Sam and Colby, but to the more than 15 million people watching.
So the first day we met, we were paired up with each other to investigate a private residence. We thought the place was really active, and then the next investigation we went on, the same activity, a lot of footsteps and banging sounds, and then the other team members were like, maybe it's something with you guys, you should go experiment. We found out that eventually, over time, that when we hold hands or hold wrists, it's almost like flipping on a light switch and kind of draws them in a little closer. So we're not mediums or anything, we can't sense anything. Whatever happens, everyone is here to witness. We can't control it, and we only do this for people who cross our paths naturally and don't do it for money or anything like that. So
I actually almost believe that they don't do this for money, because the elevator pitch for this thing sounds like a complete nothing burger. In fact, we're about 20 minutes into this thing now, and I was starting to get, I don't want to say bored, but I was just kind of like, can we move it along, please? But if anyone is sensitive to how your attention span is holding up, it's YouTubers. And Sam and Colby come to the rescue, letting us know that we're not gonna wanna miss this.
The following footage you're about to see, we left completely unedited and completely uncut so that you guys could experience it the way that we did.
This affected us so much that we even flew back to the Conjuring House a month later to try to debunk what we saw, and we couldn't. We'll include that footage here at the end.
We want you to watch and give your honest opinion about what you think, because after Sam and I experienced this, we've been thinking about it every single day since.
Wow. Now that's an elevator pitch. Are you paying attention, Cody? This is how you sell it. Anyway, I'll just let the clip play. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Can you come in here, please?
I feel the vibration.
If anybody's here, I'm gonna ask you. Okay, if anybody's here, I'm gonna ask you to make that same noise you just made, maybe let's say 4 times, to let me know you can hear me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Might be a bit exciting, so I know. Okay, hold on a second. So I'm going to play a little game. If you'd like to tell me your first name, I'm going to go through the alphabet. When I get to the first letter of your name, you're gonna knock. I'll restart. When I get to the second letter, you're gonna knock, and I'll keep restarting until I spell out things, okay? All right, so I'm gonna get your first name. A, B, Abigail Arnold. Perfect. It's great to talk to you this evening.
Hey, wait. Is this normal?
So basically, when Cody and Satori hold each other, they're saying that it creates a connection with the spiritual plane, and they're able to communicate with spirits like Abigail. The ghosts interact with them through a series of knocks that everyone in the room can hear. They captured it on camera. You heard it yourself. And Satori turns into kind of a human Ouija board where she starts reciting the alphabet until the knocks line up with the letters that she's reciting, and the ghosts can spell out a word that they want to communicate. The first way they show this is by having Abigail identify Colby and spell his name.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us his name?
A, B, C, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, A, B, C, B. I know, I went fast on that one. Colby. Perfect.
Okay.
Abigail spells out Sam's name too, before telling him that there are, quote, people here who also want to talk to Sam and Colby. One of those other spirits comes forward and identifies themselves as Libby Golback, which Sam has a big reaction to.
Libby Golback?
Your grandma?
It's my grandma.
Now, Sam's understandably really caught off guard by this. I mean, if I heard a stranger spell out my late father's name without ever mentioning him to them or telling them anything about him, I would be reacting just like he is. Sam even clarifies that he's shocked they said the name Libby.
There's no way in fucking hell they know anything.
No.
That's not her real name. That's her nickname. No one in my family, no one besides my family would ever tell anybody like that. What the fuck?
I hate to tell you, but we only have access to toilet paper.
You guys are gonna pull a stunt like this and then not even have tissues available? Sam's just like, I'm good. Don't want to be wiping my nose with toilet paper in front of 15 million people.
There's no fucking
There's
way.
no way. They knew her.
There's no fucking way.
It's funny to me that they repeat, there's no way, over and over, to the point where Colby pauses to try to think of a different way to phrase it, and he comes up with,
There's zero way.
there is a severe lack of a way. There is a complete and total absence of a way. No, but in all seriousness, you know, even though I'm skeptical when it comes to YouTubers like this, I found myself really buying their reaction here. It seemed sincere. And maybe I'm a sucker, you know, but even though I'm not familiar with them outside this series, I decided to give them the benefit of the doubt. With that said, they end up freaking themselves out in the parking lot, and when they come in, they tell the Conjuring House staff that something was, quote, running at them outside.
Because like someone
Or an animal or something.
ran at us.
So that's a little more of that YouTuber energy I was expecting, rearing its ugly head. They end up coming back inside though, and Cody and Satori resume their spirit communication act to relay more messages from family members. Sam's grandmother says she's watching over him, as well as his brother and sister, Allison and Ben.
Allison and Ben are my brother and sister.
They even pull Sam and Colby's producer, Zach, into the mix, although Zach chooses to not have his session filmed. Even though we don't get to see it, Zach appears to get emotionally moved by the information they gave him.
I'm not a public figure. There's no way that anybody in this room would have known anything about any of these people.
Up
It's impossible.
until this very moment, you've always been a skeptic. Does this help at all?
I don't even know what to believe at this point.
Cody and Satori end up relaying messages from Frank Brock, who wants to tell Lane that Elizabeth and I are okay, which Colby identifies as his family members.
I think Elizabeth and Frank are my great-grandparents. Lane is my dad, and nobody spells Lane like L-A-Y-N-E.
They go on to give more messages to Colby, things like, tell Lisa Janelle is with her, with Lisa being Colby's mom. Needless to say, Sam and Colby continue to have big reactions to all this news.
What is happening?
Good, that makes me happy. Anything else?
Satori then tells the guys that their family members just walked away.
They just walked away.
Oh my god, wait, yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And then they're done for the night.
So, let's review. When Cody and Satori join hands together, sorry for all the clapping, they say they're able to connect with spirits. What immediately follows is a mysterious knocking sound, and Satori recites the alphabet to coincide with that knocking sound for the spirit to spell out a message. Now, if you're a skeptic, if you're the type of person that's always looking for the rational explanation, you probably are already starting to form theories about how they're doing this little magic trick. And thankfully, the guys have some theories too. Sam and Colby can get a little caught up in the moment sometimes.
That is blinking!
That just blinked.
That just flickered.
Something just moved.
Something's out here.
But I was both relieved and surprised to see them immediately start attempting to debunk Cody and Satori's act, even when they were still reeling from it in the parking lot.
Full honesty, I was looking at their feet like, who's tapping?
And immediately after Satori says the spirits walked away, they start asking if they can change location.
It's up to
Can
you.
we follow you upstairs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and just do it upstairs.
And then do it again upstairs.
Okay.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Wait, where is this? Can we do it in this room right above us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys, just take a peek at, this is what it looks like. There's just wood. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing on all of that. Just take that in. Okay, now we're gonna go up to this same
Here we
room.
go. You ready?
Cody and Satori do the same routine upstairs, and the same knocking sounds are heard. The spirit Abigail spells out the words woods, cautious, and good intentions. So nothing like the personalized information they were getting downstairs, but they're still getting communication. Cody and Satori's spirit revelations are the show stealer of Sam and Colby's Conjuring House series. And like I said earlier, for me, it was really unexpected that the most controversial part of this series had nothing to do with the Conjuring House at all. I mean, I came into this series expecting to see like fishing line tricks, moving furniture around, maybe somebody getting like cartoonishly possessed by a demon or something. But yeah, the main attraction of this whole thing is Cody and Satori's seemingly unexplainable connection to the beyond. Now, you may be thinking to yourself right now, it's fake. They're trying to fool us. And I agree. I think we're being fooled. But how are they doing it? We need more information. Luckily, Sam and Colby are already on the case.
While we were editing, we realized that there were some possible non-paranormal explanations for Cody and Satori's knocking method, so we went back to Rhode Island to figure it out for ourselves.
They wanted to answer a few questions. 1, is the knocking trick part of the house?
There's just wood. There's nothing.
2, is there anything in their shoes?
And just for reference, nothing built into our sneakers.
And 3, where is the sound coming from?
Do you mind if I try to see like where the noise is coming from?
Can you keep stomping your feet as much as possible?
Sometimes you'll hear it move around the room. Can you walk
Yeah, now it's over here.
Now
it's over here.
Yeah, it is moving.
Dude, I can't even follow it.
So first, Sam and Colby take them outside to test it. And as it turns out, yes, they can do it outside.
All right, Abigail or anybody, if you're here, can you come up to the front for me?
Here it is. It's outside.
Come over here.
Next, they take Cody and Satori to a random park nearby that one of their team members blindly chose, and they even made them change into surprise shoes they had just bought.
We got shoes at Walmart.
There's nothing in their shoes, everybody.
Turns out they were able to do it at this random park too. And this really impressed Sam and Colby.
From what we were experiencing, there's no way we could explain how they could possibly be faking this.
Now, what impressed them so much about this was that Cody and Satori started talking to a random spirit at the park named
Terry Fossey.
And Terry starts giving them very location-specific information. For example, they spell out that they were a teacher and then say the word globe.
Globe Park School is 800 feet that way.
No! No way!
While we were leaving the park, we had a team member look up all the information that we got from Terry, that the spirit that came through, and it was all true.
September 27th, which is today.
No!
2007, so 16 years ago, today, Terry Fika died at Globe Park School.
Whoa! And that's why I was walking around today.
Oh my God.
Wow, there's no way. As Colby put it, there's zero way. Now, you may not have noticed this, but according to the footage, Terry got her own name wrong.
Terry Fossey.
Terry says her last name is Facci, but the screenshots they show spell her name as Fika, which is an interesting inconsistency. Now, how would this ghost get their own name wrong? It's a mystery. A mystery we'll revisit later in the video, but just bookmark it for now. Sam and Colby conclude their investigation by asking Cody and Satori to do the trick again in a random parking lot, and again inside a dance studio they had rented.
Is this a female?
Male. Okay. Are they with this building? Are they with somebody in this building?
Outside the building?
They're from outside. Okay.
And these tests lead Sam and Colby to proclaim a stunning revelation.
Based on our experiences with Cody and Satori, we 100% wholeheartedly believe that this is true.
All right, not so fast. Let me stop you right there, buddy. If you guys have seen my other ghost videos, like my 28 Days Haunted video or my Blackwell ghost video, you know that media literacy and critical thinking are things that I take very seriously. So while I'm happy that Sam and Colby at least attempted to do some basic debunking and testing, frankly, it wasn't enough.
True.
Now, like I said, I came into this series expecting to see some classic, obviously fake, ghost caught on camera type of stuff. fronted by a couple of YouTubers who didn't question anything and didn't care whether what they were portraying was real or not. But instead, at the end of episode 1 at least, I came away actually kind of liking these guys. Now don't get me wrong.
What's up guys, it's Sam and Colby.
It's clear that these guys' priority is to make entertaining YouTube videos. So throughout the series, they're very excitable and they often get carried away.
Oh fuck, dude! What the hell? That is Robert! What the fuck? No!
Oh god, no!
Robert the dog!
But I don't know, I didn't get the vibe that there was any malicious deception going on, which is more than I can say for some. However, I do think they came to the conclusion that it was legit a little too quickly.
We 100% wholeheartedly believe that this is true. True.
I'll come back to Cody and Satori later in the video, but in the meantime, just think about it. There's these mysterious knocking sounds that are happening pretty much no matter where they are. The knocks appear to bounce around the room. It doesn't matter what shoes they're wearing. They're also able to recite real names of real dead people that are either directly related to the stranger that they just met or the location that they were just taken to. If it's not real, how are they doing it? Well, hold on to that thought. Time for episode 2. Episode 2 of the series is a whopping 1 hour, 43 minutes long, and it's about their trip into the aforementioned woods that the ghost Abigail warned them to be cautious of. That caution goes out the door almost immediately.
Alright guys, so as you can see, we are now in the middle of the woods, actually.
I'll be honest, even though I thought Cody and Satori were faking it, episode 1 got me hooked on what would happen next. Unfortunately, episode 2 is mostly just Sam and Colby getting excited about their ghost hunting devices lighting up.
Oh my god, that thing's just going off! What?
Yo! Wait, yo, okay, that's not
us. Oh, now it's freaking the fuck out.
You may be wondering what these mysterious devices are, especially since a lot of them are commonly seen on ghost hunting shows to detect paranormal activity. Well, considering the bulk of this 100-minute episode is comprised of Sam and Colby reacting to these devices, I guess we better find out what they are. The most common one is called a REM pod, and this was the one Sam and Colby get most excited seeing light up. I was actually curious about what parts it was made of and how scientific it was, so I looked it up. I found this article written by this guy, Kenny Biddle, whose name you might recognize as someone who also wrote about debunking the Blackwell ghost that I covered in a previous video. Turns out he's a very experienced paranormal debunker and he's written tons of articles about this stuff. Anyway, this article about the REM pod confirms the hunch that I had that it's quite the unscientific device. The main component is a junior theremin circuit, which is a miniature version of a theremin. The theremin is a musical instrument that a musician controls without physical contact. Basically, it creates an electromagnetic field using 2 antennae, and the theramist moves their hands inside that electromagnetic field to create a capacitor. Capacitance is what happens when 2 conductors are in the same field, but not touching. Sorry, you probably didn't want to learn today. I'll try to keep the learning to a minimum. So the REM pod is a miniature theremin, meaning the electromagnetic field it produces is much smaller and has a range of about 6 inches. So what does it mean when a REM pod lights up? It means that its tiny electromagnetic field has been disturbed somehow. Think of it as the invisible hand of an invisible theremin player. The problem, though, is that objects in close proximity aren't the only thing that can set off a REM pod. Radio waves, for example, can activate a REM pod from surprising distances. Here's a demonstration by a YouTuber named Minnesota Ghost Seeker, who activates a REM pod simply with a walkie-talkie.
Watch. Keep walkie-talkies away from the REM pods.
Know what else emits radio waves? Cell phones. Or smartwatches, like the one Colby's wearing in pretty much every clip. All I'm saying is, when you see a REM pod light up, it doesn't necessarily mean that something in close proximity set it off. Especially with all the equipment that Sam and Colby use, and I'm guessing they didn't put their smart devices into airplane mode or anything like that. There's a lot of potential electromagnetic interference. What's interesting too is that Sam and Colby focus a lot on this one REM pod they place in front of the basement, which seems to constantly be going off when they're around.
Literally, as soon as I touched the front door.
It's like doing an alarm like a police siren.
But their paranormal investigator friends, Josh and Seth, tell a different story.
And it's weird because when we were here without you guys, it didn't go off at all.
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't quite catch that.
When we were here without you guys, it didn't go off at all.
Now, it's hard to say for sure because Sam and Colby play really fast and loose with their REM pods. There's no Faraday cages to limit interference or any kind of interest in having a control group to see what's affecting it and what's not. But the fact that Josh and Seth noted that the REM pod was only going off when Sam and Colby were around makes me think that they probably had something on them that was interfering with it. But don't just take my word for it. Here are some of your favorite ghost hunters, Ryan and Shane, learning this lesson in real time.
This REM pod just started going fucking crazy.
That's because you're using the radio.
Oh, does that happen?
Yeah.
Now, while I would consider the REM pod to be somewhat unreliable and to be taken with a grain of salt, some of the other devices they use are even less scientific. For example, here's one that Cody and Satori casually introduce as a, quote, static box.
That's a static box? Is that what it's
Yep,
called?
so it detects static anomalies in the air. So it's
like
giving
that?
you proximity of where it's coming from. Can you walk around that and show my friends how it works? I'd appreciate it. Walk either to the left or to the right. Thank you.
Wow.
If you could get all the way to blue, I'd be very happy. If not, it's okay though.
Walk it all the way around.
Can you get to blue? Thank you so much.
Wow.
I have no idea what this thing is. I couldn't find anything about a static box online, and the description that Satori kind of gives up on giving about halfway through doesn't even make any sense. Like, it detects static anomalies? But how? And what are static anomalies? At this point, I'm looking at Sam and Colby like, either of you want to jump in and ask how this mysterious static anomaly device works? No? Whatever happened to all the debunking energy from episode 1?
Wow.
Satori tells the ghost to make the lights move in a circle, and they do, but since this is just some mysterious device that they introduced that even Sam and Colby apparently haven't heard of, like, who's to say it's not totally rigged?
True.
Basically, I'm saying the REM pods are unreliable, but at least they're a known quantity. Meanwhile, anything at all could be in these so-called static boxes. So I'm going to be really quick to write off anything they show with the static box. Another device Sam and Colby use in the woods is called an Alice box.
This will go off just every once in a while and spit out a word just like an ovilus.
I wasn't familiar with the Alice box, so I decided to look it up. There's not a whole lot of information out there, but according to the website, they go to painstaking lengths in this description to not tell you exactly what it does. The one thing I was able to glean about the Alice box was that it comes with a preloaded dictionary of between 2,000 and 5,000 words. And that's what it pulls from when it spits out a word. And yes, I do have thoughts about that preloaded dictionary. We'll get to it. One last device I saw in the episode is the so-called music box, which detects motion using a laser sensor.
Oh my god!
Oh, something's happening right there, dude. What the fuck?
I don't know, man. It's hard to verify that these devices have any scientific merit at all, considering how readily I saw these guys just accept Cody and Satori's so-called static box without even asking any questions about it.
That was a full circle, just like you asked.
I'm not saying that nothing paranormal is happening at this house, but I am saying that it can't be proven using these devices. And honestly, at this point, I was getting a little bothered by how laissez-faire Sam and Colby seemed to be about using these devices, considering they went to comparatively great lengths testing Cody and Satori's little trick. They've been making paranormal investigation content for years now, so I feel like it's irresponsible of them to not at least acknowledge that the devices may not be accurate, or that there could be non-paranormal reasons for the results that they get. Like, I know it's kind of a vibe killer to stop what you're doing, stare into the camera, and be like, now remember, kids, this thing lighting up might not mean anything, because it kind of dampens the horror effect, and it's way more fun and exciting to just treat every instance like it's a ghost, but I was kind of bothered by it. Anyway, we do get more Cody and Satori content in this episode, and this time, Sam and Colby brought a special guest.
Gotta save the best for first, I guess.
Sam and Colby bring in their friend Amanda, who is a medium.
After the last time, I swore I would never come back here.
I don't want to spend too much time debating whether or not she's actually seeing or communicating with spirits, although I will say there were a couple eyebrow-raising moments with her that we'll get to. They also have a video call with former Conjuring House resident Andrea Perrin, who's mostly here just to hawk her book.
My name is Andrea Perrin. I am the author of the true story behind the film The Conjuring.
Although she does mention some Conjuring House lore about 7 soldiers buried somewhere around the house.
There are 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall. There are 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall.
Do you believe those soldiers are still here?
I do believe that.
Just keep in mind that the 7 soldiers being buried around there is a thing that they've beaten into the ground, quite literally, okay? It's relevant, I promise. So we're finally gonna get some more Cody and Satori content, or as I'll call them moving forward, Kotori. And this time, Sam and Colby's friend Amanda the Medium is here to witness it. Cody asks Amanda if she's sensing anyone.
You picking up on anything?
One is a boy and one is a girl.
Is that true? Yeah, good.
Wow. Satori starts translating for the ghosts, starting with Abigail spelling her name, and then saying that there was a, quote, man outside. It's at this point that Amanda points out she wrote down the word soldier.
She literally has written down soldier.
Soldier right there?
Wow, I wonder how she could have possibly known there were soldiers around. Anyway, Abigail says one of the men outside is named Frank, which Amanda tries to point out that she wrote down the letter R right before Abigail spelled it out. Sorry, I just had to jump in here real quick. Try to erase the name Frank from your mind if you can. Now try to think of a male name that starts with F. You probably thought of a name that starts with FR because R is the most common second letter for male names starting with F. Francis, Franklin, Fred, Frodo, okay? It's the most common one. Abigail says Frank's last name starts with Bart, which just so happens to be...
My last name is Bartlett.
Do you know a Frank?
My dad's name is Frank Bartlett.
So you can see what's happening. The ghost claims they're Amanda's great-grandfather, Frank Bartlett. Frank tells Amanda through Abigail that he's watching over Tyler.
That's my brother's name.
Oh my.
Right, so you get it. They're doing the same thing again, just with Amanda this time. Now, last time Amanda was here, last time Sam and Colby were at the Conjuring House 2 years ago, and they referenced this a few times, something supposedly wrote her name in some sand that was just one room over.
Amanda and Scotty's name were both etched into the sand.
I was watching this part with my wife, and she pointed out that the handwriting was very modern, so she hoped that they wouldn't try to say it was somebody that died a long time ago who wrote it. Well, I have some bad news. So Sam decides to ask who wrote the name in the sand.
Can you help us understand who wrote the name Amanda in the sand?
Abigail starts spelling out the word name, and Amanda immediately says,
That's what I wrote down.
Name?
You wrote down the word name after you're already on the subject of a name being written in the sand. Right. Okay. These guys are starting to give me a migraine. Abigail spells out, he says he saw her, which the group is confused by. Abigail clarifies that he is the soldier, which is a reference to something Amanda saw last time she was here 2 years ago.
Oh my
The
god!
soldier that I saw.
That is literally...
You saw the soldier outside.
Uh-huh.
The soldier...
He saw her.
The soldier was the one that was requesting that Amanda help the soldier like 2 years ago. But we just got that through a music box section. We didn't actually get confirmation of that.
But I saw the soldier the first time I was here.
So, like, he's confirming that you guys saw.
We saw each other.
Or he saw you.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, that's...
Wow.
I don't know anything about this, so I'm just going to... If you know what that means,
yes.
good.
It's getting harder and harder to not just dive straight into the dedicated Cody and Satori theory section of the video, but for this one, it's just like, come on, guys. you watched the video. It had like 30 million views, and you work at the place the video was about. Of course you watched it. There's no reason to pretend like, I didn't know about any soldier. Honestly, this was a weird one to lie about. The soldier ghost goes on to say that he wants to leave, which basically wraps up his story arc for the series. After that, Colby asks if Abigail can make one of the devices light up. And of course, the mysterious static box is the one that lights up, but only after Cody moves it around first.
Or a pen.
Oh my god!
Satori asks Abigail if she could tell people what the afterlife is like.
Can you say anything that would tell people what it's like or about?
To which Amanda furiously scribbles into her notepad, and Satori spells out the word good.
Good?
Oh, it's good. You said good.
I did. I wrote that down
my God.
right after the question got asked, because that's what I heard her say.
Oh my god, my migraine's back. So again, not interested in debating anything about Amanda's abilities or anything, but it's just the fact that the word good was so obviously going to be the answer to the question, what is the afterlife like? Can you imagine if Abigail had said something and said like agony, torture, eternal pain? I would be impressed if Amanda wrote that down. Hey, that's what I wrote. Eternal pain, agony, endless torment.
A question for you guys. Is that mentally exhausting?
Not so much mentally, yeah.
It's like energy, like
Yeah.
draining.
I kind of feel like shin splints in my ankles.
You can feel it in your ankles. Can you, Cody? That's interesting. Okay.
Well, I'm glad that we can excite you by holding hands and making knocking noises.
Holding hands and making knocking noises? Is anyone else hearing this? All right, speed round on the rest of the video. Sam, Colby, and Amanda have a debriefing where they fawn over Satori some more.
Is there any way that is debunkable?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I mean, we literally don't have time for this. Let's keep going. Sam and Colby decide to set up that fateful REM pod by the basement door before they head off to the woods when something interesting happens.
Let me see if this is recording.
Good to go?
It is
That cover just opened.
Yo, that collar just opened and that just went off. It's going off right now. Yeah.
It just flew open.
This was one of the more interesting bits I saw. Now, I can't help but notice that Sam's conveniently zooming in when it happens, but I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that this cabinet opening wasn't blatantly faked. There's a lot of possible explanations for this cabinet opening like that. The room could be at an incline, for example. It also happens directly after Colby walks right in front of it, so it also could have been a draft from his nearby movement, or his walking compressing the floorboards and slightly nudging the cabinet open. It could be a lot of things. They spend a brief moment considering non-paranormal explanations.
Was it footsteps?
It could have been footsteps for sure.
It wasn't a draft, only because we shut it, and when we shut it, this side clicks shut.
True.
But like with a lot of moments in this 1 hour, 43-minute video, they barely have time to react to one thing before it's on to the next. Next, they go outside and do an Estes method session, which is where one person holds a spirit box while blindfolded with noise-canceling headphones on and calls out words they hear in the spirit box, while the other person asks questions to the spirits. If you don't know how the spirit box works, it's basically just a modified radio that scans radio frequencies and plays random words it hears across multiple frequencies. These words can be anything, but the important thing to know is that the words it plays will always be from a radio broadcast that it picks up. For example, it could play the phrase "no credit," and that would obviously be from a commercial. This is probably going to shock you to hear, but I don't consider the Estes method to be a scientific means to communicate with spirits. In the times I've seen it used, there have been clear examples of confirmation bias at hand. Confirmation bias is the tendency that we have to interpret things in a way that confirms our current beliefs. And I noticed that Sam and Colby do this quite a lot. In addition to that, even though they're using noise-canceling headphones, there's always the possibility that they'll hear a word their partner says and repeat it. For example,
This device he's holding, you should be able to communicate through.
Holding.
Oh my god.
now he may have legitimately heard the word holding through the radio, but look at how close Amanda is sitting. He could have definitely just heard her say the word holding just now and repeat it. This particular instance isn't a big deal or anything, but it's just an example of why I don't think this is a sound method. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and pick apart the entire Estes session because frankly, we got bigger fish to fry. But there was one part I thought was funny. I gotta show it to you. Here it is.
Can you tell us how many of you are here?
Abigail, are there things out here that could be dangerous?
7?
That's the number I wrote down.
Oh my god, she just wrote that down.
You wrote down the number 7, did you?
There are 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall. There are 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall.
Where did you get that number from? I feel like I'm picking on Amanda a lot, but my overall problem isn't with her personally, it's with the standard of proof that they're setting. When they celebrate every single match or connection they make, it makes the actually big moments feel less special. It's also like sensory overload watching this. There's way too many moments where they're like, hey, the thing lit up, and not enough moments where they stop and analyze something. It's like, I want to know about that cabinet that opened because I feel like there's a rational explanation for it. But instead, we just breeze past it onto the next thing. The rest of the video continues at the same frenetic pace, so I'll just show some highlights. They use the Alice box in the woods, and it spits out a few words. Solid, divided, attack, Dave, left, single, fit, stock, bad feeling, gauze, alphabet, candle, surprise, and able. There's a lot of examples of the power of suggestion and confirmation bias in how Sam, Colby, and Amanda interpret these words, but I just want to point out that these words are all coming from a preloaded dictionary on the Alice box, like I said earlier. I don't know what the full dictionary looks like, but I noticed there was a pattern of what I would call horror words. For example, in the second half of their woods experience, they hear stock, bad feeling, gauze, alphabet, and candle all in a row. I thought bad feeling was a weird one to have in the preloaded dictionary, considering it's a phrase and not a word, but it's not so weird if you think about the Alice Box's dictionary as being full of words specifically picked for ghost hunting situations. Gauze was probably picked because it's a way to dress wounds, and if you're ghost hunting, a wound on a dead person is something that tracks. Alphabet was picked because ghost hunters usually have Ouija boards nearby, and candle was picked because ghost hunters often use candles. Sam and Colby didn't use the Alice box long enough for me to pick up a meaningful pattern, but still, out of just 13 words they showed on camera, there was enough of a pattern there of words that were clearly hand-picked to fit with a ghost hunting narrative that I thought it was worth mentioning. I mean, you're not going to hear the Alice box spit out words like Final Fantasy or onomatopoeia or something like that. It's going to be words like ritual or abandoned or linger or other words like that that are going to be far more likely to trick the listener into thinking that they're relevant. Just saying, it's absolutely not a scientific device in any way whatsoever, if that's something that matters to you, which I think it should. After Amanda leaves, Sam and Colby meet up with their YouTube friends, Josh and Seth. I don't spend too much time on this part. They wander around the property at night, doing things like dance around the witch Bathsheba's grave.
Bathsheba Sherman was not a witch.
Oh, okay, my bad. They were doing things like dancing around a random person's grave, and the usual freaking out over REM pods.
Yeah, walk in front of that just to test it.
This part lasts about 40 minutes, and honestly, there's only a couple moments I found interesting. First is this one of a door opening by itself. Ooh, spooky. Now, the reason I want to talk about this moment is not because it's particularly noteworthy, but because it's one of the only instances in the series where you can see something actually physically happen. There's a lot of reasons why a door might appear to open on its own. Uneven pressure caused by an open window somewhere else in the house. problem with the hinges. There's a draft present. Maybe it wasn't closed or latched all the way, etc. But none of these potential explanations are explored. Instead, behold, their full investigation.
This door is completely open.
No, it's fucking not.
They probably caught it on the camera.
What?
There is no way.
This is recording.
Nah, I don't believe it. We gotta see the video.
Let's watch
no
it.
way that door just opened by itself.
There's no fucking way.
Let's go watch this
I
right
closed
now.
it for
I
sure.
wanna see it.
What the fuck?
Oh
my god.
Dude.
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
It was enough force to move the rock on the floor.
True.
And that's it. Not gonna check the door at all. Once again, I know it's a vibe killer to like walk over to the door and start opening it and shutting it over and over like a caveman. Like, well, how did it open? But the fact that they don't show any investigation into it makes me take them a lot less seriously when they claim other times that they found paranormal evidence. So that was the first thing I wanted to show, and the second one is something that happens to Josh while he and Seth are investigating by themselves.
Can you tell us your name? Can you tell us your name?
Whoa, what was that?
Someone just touched my arm.
Josh claims that something touched his arm, and from the replay, it looks like his sleeve moved on its own. Considering we've seen cabinets and doors open on their own in the footage, I think it's fair to say this is an extremely drafty house. You're looking at the spirit box, you're listening intently, you're in total darkness, you're already a little freaked out, and then some air moves by your arm, right? I can only speak for me personally, but I've lost count of the number of times I've sat at this desk and thought for sure that there was like a spider or a bug on my leg, and I've looked down and there's been nothing. The only explanation I can think of for that is that the circulation of air under the desk was such that it brushed my leg hair just enough to give the illusion that something had touched me. And it's confusing when that happens, but unless you're gonna tell me that there's been a ghost under my desk pranking me every few months for my entire life, I'm gonna chalk this one up to a non-paranormal experience.
Oh, you can fucking see it.
You can see it. Wait, do it again. Do it again. Do it again.
Just heard a tap.
Oh my god.
See?
Once again, there's not really any debate or consideration given to non-paranormal explanations. It's just accepted by the group that this was a ghost, which is starting to get frustrating for me. We've reached the end of episode 2 now, and my episode 1 impression of Sam and Colby has changed a bit. Their reaction to Satori and their immediate interest in at least trying to debunk it was something I found admirable. Granted, I think they didn't do a good enough job debunking it for reasons we'll get into later, but I like that they seemed to have an interest in what was true and what was not. But after watching episode 2 and all the hokey devices they were using and just taking at face value, all the times they were impressed by things like Amanda writing the word 7, or all the times they didn't properly investigate something like the door or the cabinet opening, it all just flew in the face of how they were in the first episode for me. I don't think that Sam and Colby are necessarily faking anything, but they're also not taking any steps to give their investigations any scientific grounding of any kind, which is almost as bad. It's not a malicious deception, but it's still a negligent deception. I'm guessing episode 2 is more like how they usually are in these episodes, and how they were in episode 1 was very unusual. We're about 2.5 hours into this thing now, and the most interesting thing that has happened by far has been the Satori magic trick. Now, as much fun as it would be to spend the next hour of the video commenting on every little REM pod that lights up or every door that opens, I would much rather talk about Cody and Satori, so we're going to do a super speed round for the next 2 episodes. Alright, I lost the beanie, but I still got the attitude. For episode 3, Sam and Colby brought their famous influencer friends, Lorraine and Bella Porch. They goof off for a while, messing with lights, pretending to go into dark rooms, and freaking themselves out in the basement.
Run behind.
Oh, what the fuck?
Before they bring out the main attraction once again. Cody and Satori. Kotori introduce themselves to Larry and Bella, and Colby issues an open invitation to them.
Feel free to try to debunk this as hard as you can.
Do you guys honestly think we're gonna get any debunking? Because I don't. But Colby's an optimist. I like that. I wish I had the same optimism for Larry and Bella to solve the mystery. They do the same routine they did before, much to Larry and Bella's amazement.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Surprise, surprise, they're talking to Abigail again. Abigail spells Bella's name and says she touched her on the leg. Then Abigail moves right on to Larry and says their family was watched over while their dad was gone.
Does that make sense for you?
crazy. Yeah, my dad he was just in jail. He just got out recently.
The next part, Sam and Colby claim cannot be shared publicly, but judging from the reaction, it was something related to Sam. Kotori asks Abigail if she has a message for all the people watching, and she spells out the phrase, "We are okay." Sam and Colby start asking questions about the afterlife, and they get one-word answers like light, good, and real, which gets a big reaction.
It's real.
Oh my god.
That's so
We
beautiful.
believe you.
I don't know why they had such a big reaction to this part. Like, isn't the existence of the afterlife just sort of assumed based on the fact that you're having a conversation with a person who died over a century ago? Allegedly. Kotori transcribed one last word from Abigail, which is love. And finally, after the last two sessions, where Kotori practically begged someone to do it,
Does somebody want to stand between us? Because if you stand between us, it can still work as long as we're on either side of you. We've had people go in the middle, and if we're on either side, it still works.
Larry offers to go in between them to experience their method. And then, in a surprising move, Larry moves in to debunk their whole operation.
I have no questions. I'm not going to question anything, but that was just beautiful.
Guess it's just not quite the debunking vibe with this group, huh?
Feel free to try to debunk this as hard as you can.
Sam and Colby have a heart-to-heart about how beautiful the experience was.
I love you guys.
Love you guys so much. That's why we do it.
Before we're back to freaking out at random sounds in the forest.
What was that?
Come on, guys. You're in the woods. There's wild animals out there. Squirrels, raccoons, deer.
It's that tree. Something's moving in the tree.
They pull out the Alice box and it starts spitting out words. Knife, violent, land, spell, levitation, cycle, alignment, and fight.
Dude, it's all like malicious words.
Yes, you're exactly right. Colby, you're so close to realizing how the Alice box works. Unfortunately, he attributes the violent word choices as an indicator that they're in danger, rather than attributing it to the device's preloaded dictionary being designed to have a higher ratio of violent words. This is actually exactly what I'm talking about when I say there's a lot of confirmation bias happening in these sequences. The guys go down to the basement again to do another Estes method session.
What do you want with us?
Sex.
True.
And that's the end of episode 3. There's a lot of other small moments that I'd love to comment on, but we'd be here all day. For example, okay, there's this one part where their light goes out in the woods and the Alice box says the word dog.
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 What is that?
And then they're like, there's dogs all around us, dude. Even though they don't see any dogs, they don't hear any dogs. They're like, we're surrounded by dogs. And then next thing you know, they cut back to them at the house, and it's just frustrating.
There's tons of dogs around.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Dude, we just got back to the house.
I wish I could comment on every little moment like this that annoyed me, but moments like this tell me that Sam and Colby are a lot more interested in making the videos as entertaining as possible than they do about portraying anything factual. What dogs, bro? The non-existent pack of wild dogs scenario is a great microcosm of my overall problem with the series, which is that it doesn't question anything. Which is ironic considering that in the intro for episode 1, which is the very first thing that you see when you fire up the series, is these words. Question everything you believe? But like, you guys aren't even doing that. I want to take this series seriously, but I can't because no one's doing their rational due diligence along the way. Anyway, time for episode 4, which is titled The Exorcism. Listen, I'm trying to hide it, okay? It's called The Exorcism. And I'm genuinely starting to wonder at this point if Sam or Colby are going to pretend to be possessed. I don't think that they will, but the fact that I don't consider it out of the realm of possibility is kind of a red flag. If I had to guess what will happen with this exorcism, I'm gonna guess that it's probably some sort of precautionary exorcism, or maybe like a historical reenactment or something like that. It's not gonna be some cartoonish horror movie exorcism where they're like convulsing or whatever. I hope not, at least. The guests for episode 4 are Sam and Colby's friends, George and Nikki. They're given a tour of the house, most of which is Sam and Colby rehashing the events of the past few days, and Nikki periodically saying she feels lightheaded or something like that.
I also already feel lightheaded, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
There's this whole segment where they video call their friend Chris, who tells them about a dream she had of them staying in a creepy house. I don't know about you guys, but someone randomly calling me up and telling me a never-ending story about a dream that they had is my personal hell. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, this was the scariest part of the video for me. Next, they build a Faraday cage outside to limit outside electromagnetic interference so they can have more reliable information from their devices like the REM pod and everything, which is great, except then all 4 of them go inside it with their smartphones in their pockets.
2.
Whoa! They end up splitting up into pairs to investigate, although that doesn't last for very long before they reunite for the picture game ritual.
Hopefully we can get a little picture of a friend.
Where they sit around in a red room and take pictures of themselves holding a mirror.
I caught you.
I caught you.
I caught you.
They don't capture anything in the photos, but they don't let a little thing like that stop them.
Oh no.
Oh, wait, that's on me.
What the fuck?
Now, maybe it's just because I'm older, but I remember using Polaroid cameras like this when I was younger, and this sort of blurry light effect wasn't uncommon. It's more likely to happen if either the photographer or the subject are moving when the picture's taken, even slightly, and especially in low light environments like what they were in, the flash can go a little out of control like that. To me, this is another nothing burger. They do another Estes session, except this time Nikki and Colby are both doing it. After seeing them do these Estes sessions so many times, I noticed that the way they approach these sessions are the same way someone might approach an improv comedy group. One of the major foundational tenets of improvisational comedy is called yes and the idea is that whatever your partner or group improvises, your response to it should be yes, which is you readily accepting whatever scenario they're building or whatever storyline they're furthering. And the next thing you should say is and, which is you trying to build upon what they've created. Now, this is a great method for creating entertainment, like an improv comedy show or a YouTube video, where the main objective is to avoid dead air or a bit that goes nowhere. But it's not a great method for scientific accuracy and authenticity, which requires statements and theories to be questioned.
Light.
We do have a
Careful.
We captured a photo.
Really good.
A really good photo?
Yeah.
That was, oh my God.
Inside?
Tapestry?
Tapestry. Maybe? Colby does have a tapestry over his eyes. It's called a blindfold.
So have I beaten this dead horse enough yet? Maybe we can get Cody and Satori to contact the dead horse for us. Anyway, then George and Nikki go home. Colby challenges Sam to sleep in the basement overnight, which is roughly 20 minutes of straight up nothing burger. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. This section is 20 minutes long. The length of a half-hour TV show, minus the commercials. Maybe it's because we're a full 5 hours into this series at this point, but I kept wondering why they left all this footage in. Probably the most exciting thing that happens is at one point, their walkie-talkies stop working.
Colby, seriously.
I can't hear anything you're saying. If you're trying to talk back to me, I cannot hear anything.
Okay.
The rest of it is just Sam groping around in the dark and freaking himself out.
Is that it? You got it. I'm scared. Are we good? Guys, what the fuck?
Don't worry, guys. Sam survives the night.
Were you down here?
They review the walkie-talkie situation and find themselves stumped.
Can you test this? Would you have your walkie-talkie on you?
Yeah.
It's on.
Same with mine, always on one.
Hello?
Hello.
See, that worked this way. Hello.
Didn't hear anything. See, it's not going through.
How is that possible?
Technology fails sometimes, man. That's how it's possible. Walkie-talkies have problems, just like any other technology. And for a transmission problem like that, it could be anything from the push-to-talk button malfunctioning to the walkie-talkie being stuck in the wrong mode to it simply running out of battery. But in any case, asking the question, how is that possible, lends itself to a lot of different answers if you just look. And I decided to look. I don't know why this part got to me so bad. Maybe it's because they were being so dramatic about it, or maybe I was still salty about the dogs, but the walkie-talkies not working, being framed as paranormal interference, annoyed me so much that it motivated me to do a little investigation of my own, and I'm happy to say that I solved the mystery remotely. The walkie-talkies they're using are the Motorola T800s. The great thing about products from major companies like this is that you can just Google the manuals if you want to read them. So here's the manual for the walkie-talkies they were using. Under the section titled Talking and Listening, you'll notice it says that when you press the push-to-talk button, the screen displays TX and blinks the two-way icon when it's transmitting. When it's receiving, the two-way icon blinks and the screen displays RX. And if you're wondering where these icons are on the screen, they've got a diagram for that too. You're looking for these icons right here. Now watch the screen on Sam's walkie when Colby talks to him.
I've been trying to contact you for the past 10 minutes.
Okay, now watch it when Sam tries to talk to Colby.
Hello? One more time, Colby. Are you there? Colby, was that you? Are you fucking with me right now?
You'll notice that when Colby's transmitting to Sam, the two-way icon blinks like it should, and the RX icon is on screen. But when Sam tries to transmit to Colby, the two-way icon doesn't blink, and the TX icon never appears. This is important because it means that Sam's walkie isn't transmitting at all. So it's not like it's transmitting but being blocked by something, for example. More importantly, in the upper right corner of the screen where it shows the battery level, it shows that Sam's battery level is depleted. His walkie even turns off from lack of battery at one point.
I truly do not understand why you can't hear this. No fucking way. Wait, hello, can you hear me? I don't understand why you can't hear this.
Colby's battery, on the other hand, is still at 2 bars. You may not know this about walkie-talkies, but if they have low battery, they'll go into receive-only mode and be unable to transmit. So Colby was able to transmit because he still had battery, but Sam couldn't because he didn't. So yeah, Sam's walkie-talkie just ran out of battery. The non-paranormal explanation is always so boring. You may be wondering why Sam's battery was so much lower than Colby's, especially since throughout this series, they've made it into a major plot point that the batteries of their equipment are inexplicably running out.
It's just out of battery, dead. Dude, this is a new thing just for this Estes method. This is a new light. Remember, the last one died.
So that just drained all of our batteries.
They attribute this to the batteries being paranormally drained.
This light's still fucking dead.
That should not be dead.
Wait, really?
That's the new light.
Then it's broken.
I don't know if the bed shaking is working, but something is still draining all batteries.
So does that mean that Sam's batteries were drained by the ghosts? How else do you explain the discrepancy? Well, I think there's a non-paranormal explanation for this one too. Let's go back to the manual. It shows that on the left side of the walkies, there are 2 push-to-talk buttons. The top one is high, the bottom one is low. The manual explains that it takes more battery power to use the top button than the bottom one. Now watch which button Sam is using when he uses push-to-talk.
Hello? One more time, Colby. Are you there?
It looks like he's pretty clearly holding the high power push to talk button. Now let's see if we can tell which button Colby's been using.
Sam, can you hear me?
It's hard to tell because he's usually holding it in a way that blocks our view, but right here, it looks like his thumb is resting on the low power button. There are other shots where it looks like he alternated with using the higher power button too, so I can't be sure, but to me this would easily explain why Sam ran out of battery and Colby did not.
How is that possible? But I have battery.
No, you didn't have battery. That's why it wasn't transmitting. Case closed. I consider this my revenge for the pack of invisible wild dogs incident. I couldn't prove that there were no dogs out there, but I could prove this one. It feels good to actually stop and take the time to figure one of these out. Sam and Colby just breeze through so many little things in this series that it's very cathartic for me to put my foot down and be like, no, we're looking into this one. We're figuring out details. It was a pretty easy one too. Like, I know that these guys are exhausted and running on very little sleep, but checking for low battery should have been like step 1. Sorry in advance for continuing to beat the dead horse, but for me, the fact that their response to this scenario was like, how is it possible? Just makes me trust them a lot less in the earlier scenarios where they're perplexed by a device not working the way that they expected to, you know? Because there probably was a very simple explanation for it, just like the one I gave for the walkie-talkies. They just don't properly investigate or consider the non-paranormal explanation for things. Anyway, time for the final night. Sam completed Colby's basement challenge, so Sam challenges Colby to go out to some creepy bridge by himself.
Cody and Satori and Madison all said that the scariest part of the woods in general is just over the bridge.
They also have a priestess come out and give Sam and Colby a tarot card reading. She then makes a homemade Ouija board, and even though Sam and Colby have apparently sworn not to do Ouija boards, she ensures they'll be safe. If you're wondering why they've sworn not to do Ouija boards, Sam clarifies why.
Ouija boards in general don't really work.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I laughed. They got me good with that one. Maybe there's more to it, but it sounds like they're saying that Ouija boards are unscientific devices. I don't know what makes them any less reliable than any of the other unreliable devices they've been using, but, you know, at least there's some standards of proof that we agree on, I guess. They do a Ouija board session talking to one of the soldier guys who tells them there's a non-human entity hanging out by the bridge and also has an emotional conversation with the boys.
Anything specific you would want to tell a lot of people about the afterlife or about you?
An L or an M?
Yeah. Oh, so say, I bet it's gonna be love again.
No way. Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude. That's like the same thing that Abigail was saying.
Love.
Sam and Colby debrief and insist neither of them were moving the planchette.
What sucks is I genuinely understand that no one will believe that because Ouija boards in general, and we've even talked about this, that like Ouija boards in general don't really work.
It's intuition, but this was like not us.
I mean, if you say so. I'm not going to fight them on it, but after everything that's happened, I just don't find them to be reliable narrators at this point. And it's not that I think they're lying. I think they genuinely believe everything they're saying. But it just seems like it's been pretty easy to get them to that belief. Anyway, weren't we promised an exorcism? There's only 13 minutes left. How are they going to do this? Colby goes out to the bridge by himself, while Sam stays behind at the house to do another Estes session. My favorite. Colby and Sam both put their blindfolds on, and from my perspective, they basically just start panicking and saying random words for like 5 straight minutes.
Faster.
Faster. Murderer.
Did you kill somebody in life?
Run!
Where are you?
At one point, Colby takes his blindfold off and then starts running.
It sounded like something was running after me, like approaching quickly, like an animal out of the, like running from the brush or something.
Oh yeah? Like what kind of animal? Like a dog? Were you surrounded by dogs? Sorry. I guess I'm still kind of salty about that one. Colby gets back to the house and pulls Sam out of the Estes session, and I guess they just kind of decide they're done. We've only got 3 minutes left in the video when this title card comes up. All right, finally, the exorcism we've been waiting for, with only 3 minutes to spare. The priestess earlier that helped them with the Ouija board sets up some circles outside, and I guess they're just making sure that when they leave, nothing leaves with them. So it's a precautionary exorcism, just like I predicted earlier. There's one last montage of clips of the house, and the guys talk about love with emotional music in the background.
You need to live this life to the fullest and love others as much as you possibly can.
And they leave us by telling us that the answer has always been love, and that they just want to give us hope. It's a nice sentiment, and it's one that we heard directly from Abigail Arnold earlier when Sam asked about the meaning of life.
Is there any specific goal and or meaning for us humans on Earth? That's amazing, guys. Fucking love.
I love that. It's always the answer.
Yeah, it's all about spreading positivity and hope. Which is why it's so disappointing that Cody and Satori are just spreading lies. So, after watching over 6 hours of Sam and Colby's paranormal investigations, I think it's fair to say that the most interesting bit by far was Cody and Satori's method. They're able to instantly, consistently, and accurately make contact with spirits, not just in the Conjuring House, but also anywhere else they go. When they make contact, the spirits communicate with them through a persistent knocking noise that seems to travel around the room and even make physical vibrations that people nearby can feel. Additionally, the spirits are able to identify themselves and others by names that it seems only family members would be privy to. Even if you believe that they're legit or you're giving them the benefit of the doubt, you have to admit that the consistency and accuracy of their readings is unprecedented and a little too good to be true, right?
True.
But if they are faking it, how are they doing it? Well, let's narrow down the possibilities, starting with the knocking noise. Your first instinct might be that the house is rigged or that they have devices in the floorboards that make the knocking noise. The problem with that is that they're also able to make the knocking noise happen outside the house. In fact, they can do it anywhere. What that means is that whatever's used to make the knocking noise has to be on their person. But where? Your first guess would probably be their shoes. But remember how Sam and Colby made them change their shoes?
There's nothing in their shoes, everybody.
Cody and Satori are constantly pointing out that there's nothing in their shoes. They act like they're very open and transparent when it comes to shoe-based skepticisms.
And just for reference, nothing built into our sneakers.
And if you guys want to see any, like, their shoes or anything, or any way to, like, debunk things.
These are my socks, okay? There's nothing attached to my foot.
And yet, watch what happens in the uncut version of the footage when Colby asks them to do the routine without shoes on at all.
First thing, can they take off shoes? Is that okay?
You'll ask on that one? Okay.
Check the rule book. Okay.
Who are you asking?
All of a sudden, they're not so open and transparent anymore. And actually, for the next half hour that Cody and Satori are in the dance studio after this question is asked, their body language completely changes. Look at Cody's reaction here. Suddenly, Cody's constantly touching his face and looking around nervously. A change in body language like this isn't hardcore proof or anything, but I never saw him act like this when they were at the Conjuring House.
Me? Just hanging around.
Which makes me think Sam and Colby got a little too close to the truth here.
Too close. Okay.
Getting too close.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Getting too close to figuring it out.
That's where they're like, no, no more.
So, okay, since the only thing that Cody and Satori have been even remotely hesitant to do is take their shoes off, it seems to suggest that whatever's happening is happening inside their socks. Otherwise, why would they dodge the question here? They acted so open earlier about the possibility of something being in their shoes, to the point where they would repeatedly dangle their legs out into the air, as if to say there's nothing in there for sure, so why not go all the way with it? A rational conclusion is that it's because they're hiding something in there. Remember in episode 2 when Cody said after they do their sessions he, quote, feels it in his ankles?
I kind of feel it like shin splints in my ankles.
There's also this small moment in the park where Satori's having trouble detecting the knocks until she makes one key adjustment.
Tell.
A.
Teach.
Your teacher?
It's a little thing, but she touches her shoe to Cody's shoe, like she's trying to feel the vibrations he's making so she has a better idea of when the knocks are. It just seems like all signs point to the feet. That's not just my opinion, that's exactly what professional debunker Dustin Dean Mentalist thinks too. He says they're using a device called a solenoid.
I'm going to show you exactly what I think he used, and it's something called a solenoid. A solenoid is a device that you can plant anywhere. You can hide this on yourself. You can hide this under the floorboards. You can hide this in the walls. You trigger this with a toe switch, and it makes a knocking noise. Let me show you. Okay, I'm gonna leave that here. I'm gonna stand way back here. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. No one else in the room with me. It's just me and my dogs. I'm gonna leave my hands up here. We're gonna have my feet, everything, so you can see I'm not doing anything. If there's a spirit here, please give me 1 knock for yes, 2 knocks for no. Okay, well that's a little bit confusing. That was 2 knocks. I'm not sure what to think. Okay, here's how I did it. In my sock, connected to a power source, excuse my feet, we have a toe switch. This toe switch activates that knocking noise, which I put in this wooden plank to simulate a floorboard. Power source is just a small little battery pack. And the thing that makes the knocking noise, again, can be hidden anywhere. It could be hidden in your body. It can be hidden under floorboards, on the wall, anything.
Now, this Dean guy is legit. He's been featured on a show called Penn and Teller Fool Us, which is a competitive magic show where they debunk magicians and psychics or anyone who has some sort of trick. And he tours around the country performing fake seances and such. So he definitely has a lot more experience debunking this kind of thing than I do. With that said, I don't quite see how a solenoid would explain how Cody and Satori are able to make the knocking noise outside the Conjuring House. And I don't think that Cody and Satori would be as confident as they are with their so-called abilities if it were all dependent on a device that could malfunction or stop working at any moment. But maybe there's another trick, in addition to the solenoid, that could help explain that. Check out this video by Dead Oak Paranormal showing how you can pop your toe joint on command to make a similar knocking sound.
There's a trick you can do with your toes to generate a knocking sound while producing no motion. So if you listen carefully, you can control the loudness. However, the louder it is, the more motion you do cause.
Joint popping was my pet theory when I was watching episode 1, mostly because when I heard the noise, I thought to myself, wow, that sounds a lot like the sound that my brother's jaw makes when he's eating. Not to throw my brother under the bus or anything, but when he chews, his jaw pops in and out, and it makes a very similar noise to what this so-called knocking sound is that was happening around Cody and Satori. Now, if that wasn't enough for you, here's a TikTok from a user named Save Us Barry showing the toe joint popping method again, but this time making the sound appear to move around the room. Okay, first of all, I just gotta say, nice sempiternal tattoo, bro. The only thing I find a little surprising about this video is how easily he makes the sound appear that it's moving around the room. He says in the comments the way he did it was with the power of suggestion, Basically just pointing and changing the volume of the joint pop tricks your mind into thinking the sound is coming from where he's pointing, which is really impressive if true. These clips aren't the only examples of impressive joint popping though. In fact, in the 19th century, a trio of performers known as the Fox Sisters popped their joints to make knocking sounds that they claimed were spirits communicating with them too. Reports even indicated that the knocks could be heard moving around the room, just like Cody and Satori's knocks move around the room. Harry Houdini, arguably the most famous magician of all time, claims that the sounds seeming to move around the room was an illusion caused by sound reflections. Apparently, and I didn't know this, but Houdini was an enthusiastic debunker. I don't know about you, but I'm inclined to take his word for it. There's a reason Houdini is a word synonymous with magician. Finally, if you're wondering how we know that the Fox sisters really were popping their joints, it's because they publicly confessed it later in life and even held an in-person demonstration. I'm not saying that this proves anything about Cody and Satori, but it is important to note that there's a precedent for this kind of act. Two last clips I want to show you. The first is a clip of Cody and Satori doing their routine in the Conjuring House years ago.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
The clip uploader claims that the sounds are too loud to be toe cracking, and I agree. It's not just really loud, it also sounds mechanical. Now, can you think of anything that could cause a loud, mechanical sound like that?
1, 2, 3.
Finally, here's an observation Sam made during the uncut footage of them in the dance studio.
Well, as we were saying, in the house, the Conjuring House, you can feel it on your feet. Everybody can feel it. We could feel it at the park next to the school. You could feel it on the concrete. But here we can't, which is very interesting.
So according to Sam, someone who has spent multiple hours at this point listening to the knocking sounds in close proximity, says that the knocks aren't making the vibrations anymore in the dance studio.
That's so weird.
It's actually not that weird if you consider the possibility that solenoids were primarily responsible for the vibrations they felt in the house. It's worth noting, however, that even though Sam makes this observation in the dance studio, Sam and Colby insist they could still feel the vibrations in the park.
And you could feel it on your feet, like the vibrations were going through our shoes.
Like, how do you explain them being able to do that in a random park? Random pavement, we could still feel it on our feet?
Listen, I'm not saying I have all the answers or anything, but it still strikes me as odd these vibrations were totally absent in the dance studio. I feel like that's a slip up on Kotori's part. I mean, after Sam says that he notices there's no vibrations on the floor anymore, Cody and Satori spend the next 5 minutes trying to explain away how that could be.
You're here.
The bottom of you is there?
What, the ghost isn't standing on the floor anymore? What? Yeah, Sam, my thoughts exactly. In my opinion, after hearing both the solenoid and the joint pops in action, combined with the fact that Cody and Satori refused to take their shoes off in the dance studio, and Sam's comment that it sounded different outside the Conjuring House, makes me think that Cody and Satori are mainly using joint popping with the additional help of solenoid devices when they're inside the Conjuring House. So that's how I think they're making the knocking noises, but frankly speaking, it's just a theory. And if you're still on the fence after hearing the joint popping and solenoid stuff, I totally understand. As evidence goes, it's not very strong on its own. But I think that in combination with a series of other red flags, it starts to become a pretty compelling argument. Let's start getting into those other red flags now, starting with all those names. If they're faking it, how did they know all those names? How did they know Sam's grandmother's nickname? How did they know Amanda's family name? How did they know Larry's family members? Well, there's actually a pretty simple explanation for all this. If you want to visit the Conjuring House, you have to book a reservation. You're not even allowed on the property otherwise. As part of booking a reservation, it clearly states that every guest needs to provide their first and last names. This means that not only did Sam and Colby need to provide their full names, but so did all their special guests, which makes moments like this one seem a lot less impressive in retrospect.
Nobody knows my last name.
But Amanda, in order to visit the property, you had to give your last name.
I'm not a public figure. There's no way that anybody in this room would have known anything about any of these people.
But Zach, in order to even be on the property, you have to give your full name.
We just need your full name so we can figure out who you are.
Once they have your full name, all they need to do is Google to find an obituary. And for Sam, his grandmother's obituary has her nickname Libby on it. It also has the names of all the other family members that Cody and Satori mentioned on that first night. Cody and Satori do a lot of Googling to find these names, and for the most part, they had no problem finding the family names of every special guest that they entertained at the Conjuring House. With one notable exception. Bella Porch. Bella was born in the Philippines and never knew her biological parents. Instead, she was raised by her grandmother until she was adopted at 3 years old. Now, if you remember in episode 3, Bella didn't get a reading from Cody and Satori. She didn't have any family members show up. You might explain this away by saying her family would be over in the Philippines, but based on the info we get from Cody and Satori about family members and the afterlife, this shouldn't have been a problem.
Do you guys know if they can travel wherever they want to at any time?
She has come and gone.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Are you always with them?
Yes.
Wow.
So they're always with you and they can travel anywhere they want, so Bella's family should be around no problem. Now, it couldn't be that the reason she didn't get a reading was because you couldn't Google her biological family, right? And this isn't the only suspicious moment that supports the Googling theory. Remember when Cody and Satori met this ghost at Globe Park who spelled her name as Terry Fauci?
Yeah.
Fossey?
Terry Fossey.
But then later, Sam and Colby pull up her obituary on screen and discover her last name was spelled Fika.
Terry Fika.
There are two possible explanations for this. The first is that the ghost simply misspelled their own name, as one commonly does. As you do, I'm sure, routinely. We've all been there, am I right? The second explanation is that Cody and Satori memorized the wrong name. Because you see, when you Google Globe Park, Rhode Island death, the first 7 search results all have the name Terry Fauci, which is a typo. You have to scroll down to the actual obituary, which has her real name, Terry Fika. This explanation would also answer the question of how Cody and Satori were able to come up with a hyper-localized name like this. How they were able to come up with the name of someone who died at this seemingly random park. They were prepared to be taken to nearby areas as tests, so they memorized some names that could be verified as belonging to those places. And by the way, Globe Park is only a 20-minute drive from the Conjuring House. And it's not like there's a ton of places to go in a rural area like this. Add in the fact that Satori's family, including her dad, Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters, yeah, that's right, that's her dad. Wild, right? Anyway, they've been living in Warwick, Rhode Island since 1979. I don't know if you've seen a map of Rhode Island, but it's pretty small. It's definitely possible that they memorized a list of names associated with various locations in northern Rhode Island, along with a couple of keywords like teacher and globe, and had them ready at a moment's notice in case someone wanted to test them like this. The locations don't even need to be that close. For example, in the uncut footage at the dance studio, Cody and Satori make contact with a spirit named Terry Robinson. Sam and Colby's team confirm that this is a real person who died several streets over. According to Google Maps, he lived a 20-minute walk away from this dance studio and died about 10 minutes away. You know, it's interesting that this spirit that Cody and Satori instantly connected with was just kinda wandering around about 20 minutes away from where they lived. No connection to the dance studio or anything, they were just hanging out there. I guess Kotori didn't have a name memorized for the dance studio specifically, so they just took the best one they had. Now, if you think it's unrealistic that they would go to the trouble of memorizing a list of names like that, I'm gonna ask the obvious question. Do you think it's more unrealistic than the idea they're actually communicating with spirits? Because for me, the former is way more realistic than the latter. And think about it, if they are faking this, it's a pretty elaborate thing to fake. Like, they're already jumping through so many hoops just to fake the knocking noise. And compared to that, memorizing a little list of 20 or 30 names and keywords isn't really that much work. I'll put it this way. If your entire career revolves around talking to the spirits of dead people, and you spend your entire career in Rhode Island, then don't you think it would be important to know the names of some real dead people from Rhode Island? Now, you may wonder, what happens when a stranger asks them to do a reading? They can't memorize names for that. And you're right, which is why Cody and Satori have a strict policy when it comes to strangers.
And we only do this for people who cross our paths naturally.
I'll go ahead and translate that for you. They're only going to do it if they know your full name and they can Google you beforehand.
We just need your full name so we can figure out who you are.
I know earlier I said I had 2 more clips to show you, but I actually have one more in addition to those. It's from a few years ago. I just think it's an interesting clip. I'll go ahead and just play it for you.
You ready? Yeah, okay. He can't talk, but yes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so that was a clip of Cody and Satori synchronizing the knocking noise with fist bumps. It's from a channel named I'm Troy, if you'd like to see the full original video. It's about half an hour long. When I see that footage, to me, it's just another sign. Again, I'm going to present the argument, what's more likely? That this is footage of a ghost that is able to time their knocks to the fist bumps? Or is it footage of Cody being able to control when the knocks happen? What's the simplest explanation? This footage wouldn't mean much on its own, just like the joint popping footage wouldn't mean much on its own. But all the red flags together start to paint a pretty suspicious picture. So, in summary, we have 1. A plausible explanation for how Cody and Satori can control the knocking noises with one or more of their bodies, possibly with the aid of mechanical devices. It's not a foolproof explanation, but I'd say it's more plausible than the idea that ghosts are making them. 2. A very likely explanation for how Cody and Satori were able to get the names of family members and why they gave everyone a reading except Bella Porch, who they couldn't Google. 3. Another plausible explanation for how Cody and Satori were able to come up with a relevant name in Globe Park, but somehow ended up misspelling it. But the most compelling argument for me has to do with their response video. Yeah, that's right, they made a response video. And yes, they did double down on everything.
We do want to start by confirming with everybody here and just saying it on record that we are absolutely real. What we do is absolutely real, and we don't know how it works fully, and we're still learning things every day about it.
I just want to jump in here real quick with more of an editorial moment. I've noticed that Cody and Satori say this a lot. They don't know how it works. They don't know why it works. They don't know. They don't know. They don't know.
I don't know why. I don't know why it works, but it does. It's weird that we don't know how it works. Cody and I found, for some reason...
Have you ever asked why you guys?
I don't know.
Have you asked?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't know if we've outright asked that.
And we don't know how it works.
Now, the reason this is significant to me is that I've noticed in my personal life that this is how people talk when they're lying. If you press them for details or even ask basic questions about the lie, they'll say they don't know, and they'll act completely unbothered by it. For example, a former friend of mine was telling me a story once of something pretty unbelievable that supposedly happened to him. We'll just say there's a person in his story who acted very mysteriously and irrationally, and I had the suspicion that he was lying about it, that the story wasn't true. And so I asked him, I said, that's a really strange thing that happened. Can you think of any reasons why that person in your story acted that way? And he just shrugged his shoulders and said, I have no idea. No clue. And he was so casual about it. No clue. Like he hadn't even thought about it. And then I found out later through another friend that he was lying about the whole thing. And I keep thinking back to that moment where I just asked him why he thought this bizarre thing happened, why this person in his story acted so strangely, and he couldn't even tell me his personal theory. And if you'll notice, every time Sam and Colby or anyone else asks Cody and Satori, why do you think you're able to do this? Or how does this work? Why does this work? They have the same shoulder-shrugging attitude that I saw in my friend when he was lying. How does it work? No clue. I haven't thought about it. I haven't asked that question. Don't know why. Let me ask you this, okay? If you discovered that you had the ability, the power, to instantly, consistently, and accurately communicate with spirits for years and years, is there any world where you wouldn't be obsessively thinking about and theorizing about why and how you have this incredible science-defying power? Again, this is just a little editorializing on my part, but it was something that really bothered me about how they talk. Carry on.
Now, there have been so many opinions and theories circulating the internet, such as we're popping our joints, comparing us to the Fox sisters of the spiritualist movement, even that we're building devices that make knocking sounds.
Hang on. Let me stop you right there. You actually don't need to build solenoid devices. You can just buy them. In fact, they're very cheap. But I get it. Using the term building makes it sound like a much more ridiculous claim to make, so I understand why you chose to frame it that way.
We are definitely not popping any joints in our body.
Damn, look at Cody shaking his head at the camera here, as if I'm the one popping my joints or something.
Now, we're definitely not building machines or devices that make knocking sounds. We definitely don't have time for that, first of all.
Hang on. Did you just say you don't have time to build machines and devices? That's weird, because isn't this your company, Cody? Des Tech? Paranormal research equipment? Hey look, here's one of your products. Isn't that your name on the packaging? Cody Ray Desbians? Now, is your name on it just because it's your company, or did you actually build these yourself? Oh, the sign right here really clears it up. It says, designed and built by Cody Ray Desbians. Huh, that really clears up a lot of things. This is a tweet from 2018 showing some prototype devices you were working on. Pretty cool stuff, man. Can't wait to see them in action. You know, it says here in this article by Kenny Biddle that your now deleted Facebook page says you, quote, specialize in audio and investigation technology with knowledge in electronics and physics. Wow. Impressive, Cody. You know, there's a device out there that combines all of those things. It's an electronic device that produces audio through physics. It's called a solenoid. So it's an incredible coincidence that this device just so happens to combine everything you claim to specialize in. You know, all this information makes what you just said about not having time to build machines or devices sound really strange, doesn't it? Because not only do you have time to build devices, you have built devices. Listen, even if you're a Cody and Satori believer, you gotta admit, this was at best an extremely suspicious thing to say.
And on the Fox sisters.
Oh, good. Here we go. They're going to talk about the Fox sisters. This should be interesting.
A lot of people throughout paranormal history and even today try to communicate with spirit via the sound of knocking and rapping noises. There's literally equipment that is designed to take the vibration of knocking or banging and associate it with letters. So it's definitely not a unique form of communication that hasn't been done before.
Well, first of all, that equipment you just described that translates knocking vibrations into letters sounds incredibly unscientific. And I would guess that you feel it's unreliable as well, because otherwise, wouldn't you use it instead of reciting the alphabet over and over? So why even bring this up? I don't know. Carry on.
There are a lot of similarities and differences between us and the Fox sisters. If you do your research, you will find that by certain accounts, the Fox sisters wouldn't let people see under their long skirts at their feet.
Oh, so the difference between the two of you is that they refuse to take their shoes off. Are we just going to pretend like you two don't have similar restrictions? I seem to remember you refusing to take your shoes off in the dance studio. So thank you for listing an incriminating similarity, I guess. But as confusing as this point was, the next one is even more confusing to me.
By certain accounts, there's also certain accounts that they would only do this for money. They would tell the future, things like that. So there are a lot of things that the Fox sisters did do that we cannot and will not do. So we highly recommend looking into them a bit further.
So the point she's making here is one that they've repeatedly made in the Sam and Colby footage too. And that's that, hey, the Fox sisters did this for money. We don't do it for money, and we never will.
They would only do this for money.
And we only do this for people who cross our paths naturally and don't do it for money or anything like that.
We're not taking money for this or anything.
But they are doing it for money. Right here, in this video. Do me a favor. I'm old, and I can't quite see as well these days, so can you tell me what it says on their shirts? Oh, it says The Conjuring House. They work for The Conjuring House. They do this act primarily at The Conjuring House. There's tons of clips of people visiting The Conjuring House and seeing this personalized routine from Cody and Satori. And every one of these people are paying customers. A little background info on The Conjuring House. The current owners, I don't know if that's Jacqueline Nunez or a company she's a part of or what, but they bought The Conjuring House in 2022 for $1.5 million. And when you pay $1.5 million for a house that you don't live in, it's so that house can make money. Preferably more than $1.5 million. So The Conjuring House is understandably aggressively marketing itself. Now, I mentioned this way earlier in the video, so you may not remember, but remember when I talked about the Annabelle doll? Remember how the Annabelle dolls have nothing to do with The Conjuring House? And yet, everywhere you look in this place, there's a Raggedy Ann doll. There's multiple Raggedy Anns in glass cases downstairs. There's giant Raggedy Anns in the bedrooms upstairs. And the reason for them being strewn around the place isn't for historical accuracy, because again, they weren't at the Conjuring House. It's to make the house look scary, to attract the ghost hunter / Ed and Lorraine Warren enthusiast clientele. I mean, look, there's Ouija boards used as decoration. There's random dolls in the background. Like, you think these lights are flickering by accident? They're not. This house is painstakingly designed to be a marketable haunted house experience. It is designed to make money. Check out the prices on the website. If you're a content creator and you want to visit, the prices start at $1,200. Even if you just want a tour, the cheapest ones are $25 a guest. Do you know how many tours they do per day? Satori does.
We do like 3 tours a day with 14 people each walking through this room.
3 tours a day, 14 people each. That's 42 people, which at $25 a pop is over $1,000 a day just on tours. And that's not including overnight stays or content creator reservations, which by the way are booked solid through January. My point is, The Conjuring House is a business, and Cody and Satori being on staff means part of their job is drumming up that business. Satori even outright admits this to Sam and Colby.
If it's helping people, then that's why we're still doing this.
That's what it's about for us, and getting the house out there and showing that the house is more than what some people just believe it is. That's the important thing.
That's the important thing. Getting the house out there. Right. So here's the business model. Cody and Satori work for The Conjuring House. When paid customers come for a visit, Cody and Satori do their routine. They get the paying customers to talk about what a life-changing event it was. Tell their friends, hey, you gotta go to The Conjuring House. You won't believe what these 2 people on their staff can do. I have more faith in the afterlife now. I mean, that's exactly what Sam and Colby did. They were so impressed that they insisted their friends who visited get a reading too. And everyone came away from the experience believing even more strongly in the paranormal. A belief that can be monetized not only in The Conjuring House, but also through their Paranormal Couple brand, which has a Patreon as well as an online store. As much as they deny it, money is definitely a motivating factor for them. The fact that they're so insistent that it's not makes me trust them even less. Because one of the key factors that you should consider when you're trying to determine whether something is true or not is asking the question, who stands to benefit if this is a lie? And Cody and Satori stand to benefit quite a bit.
We know what we do is real. And we know the thousands of people that we help know what we do is real as well. We just aren't in the business of doing experiment after experiment and becoming a lab rat for the purpose of trying to prove something to people that may never believe in the first place. We truly feel that there's nothing we can do without people coming up with some excuse as to why it may not be real.
Literally just do it without shoes on. You act like people are making unreasonable, humiliating requests. Literally just do it without shoes on. at a neutral third-party location. I find this defensive attitude to be truly bizarre if what they're doing is real, because it's an attitude that you simply wouldn't realistically have if you actually had the ability they're saying they have. Because here's the thing, and for me this is the most convincing evidence of all that Cody and Satori are lying. Forget the joint popping, forget the solenoids, forget the Googling family members, the name memorizing, forget all that stuff that we've been talking about so far. Let's say that it's real, okay? It's real. So Cody and Satori are able to instantly, whenever and wherever they want, communicate with the spirits of dead people. And not just communicate with them, but allow them to communicate with their living loved ones or anyone else in the room with them. If that's the case, then this is literally the biggest scientific discovery of all time. It single-handedly clarifies the answer to life's greatest mystery, which is what happens after we die. The answer to that question changes everything within the fields of science and religion. There's an argument to be made that it's the most important thing that's ever happened. It really cannot be understated how significant this would be if it were real. But listen to how they frame their abilities and their significance at the end of this response video.
In the end, tomorrow morning when Satori and I wake up, we're going to continue doing what we do. Help people with this gift that we have. Bring closure to them and maybe a little bit of faith in the afterlife.
This, to me, is the greatest evidence against Cody and Satori. They've had this incredible ability for years. They've had years to ponder the significance of this ability, to process what it could mean, not just for them, not just for the people that they show it to, but for the world as a whole. They've had years to think about the fact that this ability, this power is convincing enough in its consistency and clarity that if they had it scientifically studied and verified, it would drastically change everything we know about the physical world. And yet the way they frame it here in their mic drop moment is that they're going to use it to make individual people they show it to set aside their skepticism and have more faith in the existence of an afterlife. A belief in the afterlife that they actively monetize through their jobs at the Conjuring House and through their career as the paranormal couple. Now, does that sound like the mindset of someone who's discovered they have an incredible, scientifically significant superpower? Or does that sound like the mindset of a con artist?
So we'd love to see, if we held up one of these cards, if you could tell us what the shape is. So we're not going to say the word aloud. We want you to see it and then kind of tell us what shape it is. Is that okay? You can help prove to us that you're here with us. So actually, by playing this game, you would be really, really helping those messages that you're trying to communicate with us. Does that make sense?
All right, so I think that's your way of saying you're not comfortable.
Like, you're supposed to have faith. Is it about faith?
Ooh, that was loud. That was really loud.
It's about faith.
Okay.
True.
So, what are my final thoughts on Sam and Colby's Conjuring House series? Well, to be blunt, I thought that 6 hours of content was a bit much. I was getting kind of burned out by episode 3. But then again, I will admit, I'm not the target audience at all. But hey, 10 million views on each video? That's a massive success, so who am I to argue? Considering how successful the series was, though, it makes me turn my attention to Sam and Colby and ask the question, what role, what responsibility do they have in making sure that they're providing valid information to their young and impressionable audience? I've focused a lot on Cody and Satori this video, and that's because Sam and Colby themselves focus a lot on Cody and Satori. Throughout the series, Sam and Colby have multiple conversations where they reverently talk about the paranormal couple and the impact that their method has had on them.
This is something that we are going to be talking about for the rest of our lives. It completely changed what we believe in you know, how we approach the paranormal, spirituality, everything.
They mentioned several times that they recognize how groundbreaking Cody and Satori's communication with spirits is.
But it could change the world, like view of spirits and stuff.
Yeah.
This is so special.
Probably the most undeniable thing anybody's ever seen about the afterlife.
And those thoughts echo my own that I just shared a few moments ago. If this were real, it would be, as Sam said, the most undeniable thing anybody's ever seen about the afterlife. But while Sam and Colby seem to have a basic grasp of the gravity and importance of what they're showing, they don't fully explore the consequences of sharing it on a wide scale. Instead, what they focus on are the feelings and emotions that their videos on it are going to elicit from the people they're showing it to.
That is the reason why we do this. That is going to give millions of people hope.
There's going to be a lot of people out there that are just like, that's corny. But like, guys, that is like the sole purpose of life, is to spread positivity and love. That's what it's all about. That's hope. That's hope right there.
We're so buried in our phones. Instead of giving someone a real smile, we send an emoji.
The potential danger that they didn't consider here, though, is that when you give people hope, but it's based on a lie, it becomes false hope. At that point, instead of spreading positivity like you wanted, you're spreading misinformation. And I know that they genuinely believed that what they were showing in these videos was real, but that's the problem. They let their personal beliefs and emotions dictate their judgment. And when you're dealing with something like this, that, as they acknowledged at the end of episode 1, could change the world if it was true, then they need to set aside their personal beliefs and emotions. Because when you're dealing with a claim that big, that unprecedented, you need to recognize that you have a responsibility to scientifically verify these things through a neutral third party before presenting it to millions of young people. It's one thing when Sam and Colby's walkie-talkies break down and they choose to present it as an unexplainable mystery, or when a REM pod is lighting up and they don't consider non-paranormal explanations, because the stakes here are very low. No one's gonna think of the walkie-talkies running out of battery as groundbreaking scientific proof of the paranormal. But when it comes to the claim that these two are able to instantly and constantly communicate with spirits in a way that demonstrably proves the presence of an afterlife, it's Sam and Colby's responsibility to elevate their standard of proof in response. Now, is it reasonable to expect these YouTube entertainers to suddenly become knowledgeable scientists who are familiar with scientific standards and are able to judge exactly which experiments would be most effective? No. But it is reasonable to expect them to know when they're out of their depth, and that they're not qualified to be the ones who verify these claims. And to their credit, Sam and Colby sorta did this.
Tried every single way that we could in our minds to debunk it, and absolutely couldn't. So if you guys have any other ideas, let us know.
An open invitation to online debunkers is better than nothing, but in my mind, they should have contacted professionals and shown their opinions in the video. Having a physicist examine the footage, for example, or even a professional magician or illusionist. Sam and Colby have no problem having mediums and priestesses guest in their videos, so why not at least have someone from the scientific community give an alternate perspective on things, considering how big the repercussions are. They also issue their debunking challenge directly after saying this:
We 100% wholeheartedly believe that this is true.
When you've got 10 million young fans, and you both say that you 100% believe it, well, the debunking challenge that you issue directly after is going to fall on deaf ears for the majority of those people, because they're hanging on to every word that you say. And if you say you 100% believe it, that's going to be good enough for a lot of them. There was a little bit of backlash for this video. Even though most of the feedback was positive, this series did attract a lot of controversy and criticism. Mostly for Cody and Satori, but a fair bit for Sam and Colby too. To the point that they made a quick response video where they addressed a few of the major points. The theory of joint popping, the idea that their family members' names were Googled ahead of time, some of the big things we talked about in this video. And while they acknowledged these points, they were unconvinced that these points changed the conclusion.
In our opinion, and based on our experiments, there's nothing that we saw or captured on camera that debunks what we experienced. Can we say it's 100% real? No, we didn't do enough testing to prove that it's 100% real. However, from the videos that we've seen online, there's no 100% evidence to prove that this is all an act either. Yes, these are all great thoughts, and we wish we could test each and every single one of them, but until we capture ourselves definitive evidence of this, we cannot 100% prove if it's real or an act. No matter what we show or say to you guys, there's no way for us to 100% prove to you that this is real. We just wanted to share with you what we experienced. Because it's on video, unless you experience it for yourself, there's always going to be plausible reasons out there of how people could fake certain things.
Now, this statement that they gave, and all the talk of 100% proven, 100% disproven, and the fatalistic observation that, well, there's always going to be somebody debunking, the problem with all that is that that's not how science works. Well, we can't 100% prove it, but you can't 100% disprove it, so it's a wash. No, it isn't. Science actually cannot 100% prove or 100% disprove anything. For example, gravity. You cannot 100% prove gravity, but you also can't 100% disprove it either. The reason why gravity is universally considered to be a fact, despite it not being 100% provable, is because the evidence for it is so strong. Not only have there been countless experiments and math equations that continually verify the theory of gravity, you're also able to easily demonstrate it yourself. There's not any one fact or one experiment that proves gravity. There's a portfolio of hundreds of different facts and thousands of different experiments that make the theory of gravity considered a rational conclusion. So the question isn't whether or not the existence of Cody and Satori's power can be proven or disproven. The question is whether the existence of their power can be considered a rational conclusion. And based on what we've been presented, I'm going to say the answer is no. With that said, I'm also not a scientist, so take all this science talk with a grain of salt. Maybe ask somebody who actually has a degree in this stuff what they think about it. And hey, I get that it's too late now. The damage is done. But Sam and Colby, first of all, I know you guys aren't watching this, but just on the off chance you are, I don't want you guys to think that debunking these things is a waste of time or not worth trying just because you're not going to convince everyone, even if you do a really thorough job. Because you're right, you're not going to convince everyone. Some people will never be convinced, just like some other people will never be unconvinced. But that doesn't mean that you can't do a better job of approaching things more scientifically moving forward, especially when you're selling your series with lines like this. I was just going to end the video right there, but I'm a dork, and I want to talk to you guys for a minute instead. Thanks everyone for watching. I know that this video took a while to make, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and I hope you enjoyed it. The goal of this video isn't to start drama or anything, but more to highlight the importance of media literacy and critical thinking. I don't think I've said this at the end of the last few videos, but I think it's important to say my catchphrase at the end of this one. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Think critically.